Well, I finally sold my Leopard 2 from the crafting event on the marketplace. I didn't sell it for anywhere near what I thought I'd be able to, considering what the prices were right after the crafting event ended, but I kind of compromised a little. I sold it a lot cheaper than I wanted, but I did manage to get this G91 because of it. The G91R4 is really a noob jet player's go-to premium jet. I don't know why. I'd assume it's probably because when they go to buy a jet, they see that this one has 4 missiles, which is a very good amount of missiles on a premium jet, and they think they're going to get the full Fox 2 30G missile experience, and then reality slaps them in the face, and they figure out very quickly that their missiles are pretty much only good for making people turn, or just slow down in general. You are of course going to get quite a few AIM-9B kills. People tend to just not be paying attention, or they just fly in a straight line. They might not even know how to avoid missiles in the first place, and even 10G missiles can get kills once in a while. But my point is, if you're looking for a jet that's going to give you a semi-top tier experience with a lot of missile heavy combat, well, the G91R4 is just not for you, and that's kind of indicated by the 8.7 battle rating. With that being said, let's get into the G91 itself, what it does well, what it doesn't do too well, and we're going to start off with, again, the fact it has 4 AIM-9Bs. This is both a positive and a negative because, well, it's kind of obvious. The positive is that you have 4 missiles, and even being AIM-9Bs with a battle rating of 8.7, they can be used somewhat effectively even though they have very low G tolerance, especially in a full down tier with slower jets that can't quite pull as hard, at least not at high speeds anyways. The missiles do tend to fare a lot better than they do in a full up tier, if that's not already obvious, especially if you're running into things like T2s that are really fast, or a plane with flares, some of the Harrier variants, A4Es, things of that nature. The AIM-9B is just not going to be that effective for anything other than just slowing people down. But the G91 being as light of an airframe as it is, you are actually going to really notice when you have 4 missiles on the wings. It's going to create a lot of drag on the plane, and it's going to affect how well you turn, how well you accelerate, all the various flight performance characteristics. So, I mean, ideally you want to get some of those missiles off kind of early, but you do want to save them for strategic and tactical situations as well. I like to at least have 2 missiles by, mid-game, so if nothing else, I'll shoot 1 or 2 off very early game just to lose the weight and the drag. But even then, it's not going to lose too much just because the pylons of the G91 that mount the missiles are so damn long and stick out from the wings so much. And there's really just not a whole lot you can do about that. Let's say you do get rid of some missiles, or you've used up all your missiles. Well, you have 4 M3 50 caliber machine guns, and 50 cals are probably the most noob friendly guns in the entire game, and the G91 is no exception. It does only have 1200 rounds versus 1800 that you typically see on most Sabres and other American planes, but the G91 has 4 guns instead of 6. 1200 divided by 4, that's 300 rounds per gun, which is the exact same amount of ammo that you're going to see with 650 caliber machine guns, as in that you're going to have the same amount of trigger time because each gun has the same amount of ammo. What I'm trying to say is you can shoot the G91 for just as long as you can shoot a Sabre. And of course, 50 cals are very, very easy to aim, very high muzzle velocity, and with that they have an incredible amount of range. You can effectively shoot people up to 1 kilometer away when they're traveling cold, as in away from you, with relative ease as long as they're not maneuvering too hard. I run tracer belts on M350 cals just because I feel like they consistently cause the most fires and pilot snipes, so I mean, take it for what it's worth, but in the end of the day, just use whatever belts work best for you. At 8.7, the G91R4 has pretty lackluster top speed. It really only reaches speeds of about 650 miles an hour, which is roughly 1040 kilometers an hour, but in reality, you're not going to be reaching that speed most of the time in combat unless you're actually coming out of a dive. In most combat situations, you're probably going to be hovering around 550 miles an hour, which is 880 kilometers an hour. All things considered, not a very fast plane. Once you do push it up to very top speeds, let's say you do go into a dive, it also has pretty bad high speed compression. But when you are traveling at that 650 to 880 kilometer an hour range, the G91 is actually pretty maneuverable in all aspects. It can roll really well, it can turn really hard, and being as light and nimble as it is, it's actually not terrible in vertical fighting. However, given the fact that you can go up to 9.7 battle rating, don't try any kind of, energy fighting tactics on planes that are anywhere from like 9.3 to 9.7. You're just not going to win. Things have way too much power at those battle ratings. With that being said, within your own battle rating, you're pretty much the best one circle plane that there is, with the exception of the MiG-17, but that's at 9.0, the Sagittario, which is also at 9.0, and the Venom FB, which is actually at your own battle rating. Other than that, you can comfortably one circle fight every single plane pretty much that I haven't listed, and very reliably and comfortably fight them in a rolling scissors or vertical scissors, whatever it may be. It's just really good at every one circle fight. Also, really quick, my number one recommendation for newer jet players is I highly recommend you go into your modifications for whatever the aircraft is and turn off or uninstall the Noob boosters modification. What that does is it essentially allows you to deflect your ailerons at higher degrees in a shorter amount of time, if that makes sense. In simple terms, it's going to drastically change the amount of airflow going over your airframe within a given time while pulling certain maneuvers. This is significant because if you've ever just randomly ripped your wings off or your wingtips snapped when you started to turn really hard or right after you roll and then turn, it's probably because you have Noob boosters installed on the plane. Take them off, you're really not losing much performance by taking them off, and you don't gain that much by having them on. All they do is allow you to roll the ailerons a little bit better, but that also makes you a lot more susceptible to ripping, and the G91 is one of the main culprits of that. Also, real quick to touch on engine performance, I did say that the G91R4 has some pretty lackluster top speed, and that's not the end of the world, but it is noticeable when you're top tier, or if you get in a down tier, you're going to be noticing that you're not that much faster, if at all, than most of the planes around you. But I do say it's not that big of a deal because when you are getting up tiered in the G91, everything is going to be so much faster than every single plane at 8.7 anyways, due to wonderful BR compression, that it really isn't going to matter a whole lot. For example, the MiG-15 BIS is now at 8.7, the F-86 F-25 Sabre is now at 8.7, and we're talking maybe 50 to at most 100 kilometers an hour faster than G91. And when 8.7 gets up tiered to 9.7, you're going to be fighting things that are supersonic or damn close to supersonic. So it's not that much of a problem that you're not particularly fast at top speed. However, the G91 accelerates pretty damn well, and it's got pretty good thrust to weight, at least for being a non-afterburning engine at 8.7. Now we're going to get into some actual gameplay. You saw me in the very beginning of this clip do a big no-no, and that is I went in tunnel vision, or focused, whatever you want to call it. I chased the first guy that I saw, and I just hoped that I'd be able to kind of climb vertically after him, slot onto a 6, and shoot a missile. That's perfectly fine, but after I realized that I wasn't getting him with a missile, I should have just kept on going and minded my own business while trying to build up some speed after having made that vertical maneuver. What ended up happening is all these guys kind of jumped out of nowhere, and given that there was another G91R4 behind me, I was kind of forced into turning back towards all of these enemies just so that they wouldn't be able to get missiles, and if they have missiles off on me, then I have to bleed a lot of speed, and I'd get even slower than I already was. So I flew into them so that I could start diving, deny them in a missile launch, and that way I can build up a little more speed. Here we can see the G91 really shine in defensive posture. I've got a MiG-15 flying around me, another G91 flying around me. I think at one point a MiG-17 joins in. Gotta keep my head forward once in a while though, because we're able to dodge that Yak-38. But once again, the G91 has pretty damn good acceleration. I'm able to kind of bleed their energy and then immediately start getting some of mine back. And we've got a missile coming in, so that energy isn't going to last for too long if they keep spamming those out. Luckily, he just kind of shoots one, peels off, and that leaves me somewhat alone. It's no longer a 3 versus 1, it's back to a 2 versus 1, which is a little more comfortable, but still a disadvantage. However, the G91R3 peels off, and that leaves me a 1 versus 1 with the MiG-15. The MiG-15 can out-energy the G91. It does have a little bit better engine performance, and greater thrust to weight. However, in a one-circle fight, the MiG-15's just not going to win. It's not going to be able to pull inside of a G91's turn. On top of the fact, like I said, it's got better energy retention, it's going to hold its speed better, and when you're in a one-circle turn, losing speed quickly can sometimes be a good thing, or being the slower aircraft at the start can sometimes be a good thing. At least as long as it doesn't become a sustained fight. I don't want people thinking out there that they should just pop their air brake right when they get into a one circle with somebody and cut their throttle so that they can turn inside of them. You will be able to turn inside people doing that, but it's going to leave you completely vulnerable to anybody else that wants you dead when you drop all of your airspeed like that. Luckily for us, that MiG-15 did not play his cards right. He tried to get in that one circle fight with us. We're able to take him down, bag ourselves a nice MiG-15 kill. If I were him, I would have played the vertical game on the G91, or if not, do a little spiral climb, because the MiG-15, especially if it's Abyss, excels at spiral climbing. Our teammates kind of cleaned up most of the guys that initially jumped me at altitude, and that leaves me with just two guys left here, the J29D and the Yak 38. All of my teammates went back to base, so it's leaving me alone. Not that I really mind, because it looks like these guys are kind of running, but I noticed last second the Yak 38 starts pulling a vertical, and he turns his wing smoke on as well, so I know at this point it's on. The J29, on the other hand, seems to just keep on flying away. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to let the Yak 38 kind of fly past me. Last second I turned into him here to deny him a shot. If he would have tried to pull lead on that, he'd have thrown his plane right into the ground. I waited a second before I made a move after him because I wanted him to start turning back around for me. He thought that I was going to keep on flying away because I was inactive there after passing him, and once I noticed he started turning around, that's when I turned around. Only because the Yak 38 is such a damn bus that I could probably start my turn in 2023 and still have made it inside his turning circle. By knowing that, I was able to kind of just outsmart him there. We do, however, have a J29D, and the G91 is going to fly circles around the J29D all day long. What the J29D can do, like the MiG-15, is energy trap the G91. He doesn't, however, do that, and he just flies straight on away, eats an AIM-9B, and that's all she wrote for this game. I decided to break this one down versus like the 5 kill because I just thought this one was a little more real as to what the G91's capable of. You know, 5 kills is nice and all, but I think there was a lot more to learn and pick apart about the G91 itself in this clip. From now on, I guess we're just going to talk about if the G91 is worth it or should you buy it. Is the G91 worth it? Well, the question is, are you worth it? But in all seriousness, the G91 R4, in my opinion, just is not worth it. And especially the Italian G91 is not worth it. And the reason being is that the G91 costs 8,000 something golden eagles. That's going to cost you about $50 US. And what you get in return is just, in my opinion, kind of disappointing. It's not the G91 itself that's disappointing. The G91 is actually a pretty fun plane to fly. But when you look at buying a premium plane, well, why are you buying a premium plane? It's obviously going to be to research the tech tree vehicles. But at that point, my question to you is, for the Italian G91, what is it in the Italian tech tree that you want that badly that you're going to be spending $50 on a premium to get to? If it's a prop, well, you don't need to be buying the rank 5 premium jet to research a prop. You could do that by getting a premium prop for a much cheaper price, or just do it free to play. It's not going to take you that long. If it's a top tier jet, well, the Italians don't have a top tier jet. The highest battle rate aircraft they have is 10.3 with the F104G and the F104S. My point being, in my opinion, there is much better jets that you could be grinding for that are going to give you a much more full top tier experience than getting a couple of F104 starfighters. Germany's pretty much in the same boat. You're spending, once again, $50 US because it's the only premium vehicle that either of these nations have at, in the jet era, and you're getting pretty much nothing in return. If the MiG-21 MF is what's attracting you in Germany to where you want to buy the G91 R4, then I would tell you, then just go to the Russian tree, buy the SU-11, the SU-7s, the MiG-17 pack, whatever it may be, for about the same price, and you can get a lot more vehicles, including the MiG-21 SMT, which is pretty much an MF clone with very minute differences. If it's the F4F Phantom in Germany that you really want, then you probably should be going for one of the American or Japanese Phantoms, or even a British Phantom, and that way, by buying a premium in one of those nations, you're getting other aircraft to research as well, because they have much more full tech trees, at least in the jet era. The only people I'd really be recommending the G91s to for premium vehicles are people like me that pretty much have everything else that they want researched and unlocked, and really just don't have anything left to grind for. The F104S is pretty much the only plane at this point that I'm really looking forward to getting that I don't have. And if I was a newer player and I didn't already have the F4E, the MiG-21 BIS, the FGR-2, so on and so on, the Viggen, you know, all these other jets that have a lot more to offer than a starfighter, I'd probably be buying a pack or a premium jet from one of those nations. In conclusion, the G91R4 is a very good premium jet and very good aircraft in general. At battle rating 8.7, it's got acceptable performance, and the fact that it has 4 AIM-9Bs at 8.7 is something kind of unseen anywhere else in the game. It is once in a while going to suffer from battle rating compression. If you get up tiered to 9.7, that's going to be a tough game, but in the end of the day, what isn't suffering from battle rating compression? So yeah, the plane's nice and all, but you gotta ask yourself, what are you getting it for? If you really want an F104S or the F4F Phantom that badly, then fine, but I mean, in my opinion, that's kind of a waste unless that's like all you have left to grind for. Or maybe just because it's free for you. Like I said, I got mine with marketplace money from selling an event vehicle, so you know, it didn't cost me a penny. If you're in the same boat, then sure, pick up a G91, but if you're spending your own hard-earned cash, then I'd probably stay away from the G91s, at least until you have almost nothing left to grind for. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. I have a feeling it's probably not going to do too well because the G91 doesn't go Mach 2 and it's only got 10 G missiles, so who the hell is going to watch it? Probably nobody. With that being said, I hope you guys leave a comment down below, give me some algorithm food, I'd really appreciate that. I also really appreciate that we're almost at 1,000 subscribers, that's huge, and I'm going to be doing a giveaway for that very soon, maybe with the launch of a new Discord. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.